In spite of severe population pressure on land, we have more than 100 million hectares of wastelands lying idle in India. These wastelands are not only a threat to ecology and environment, but also posing a serious problem for our agricultural production. These wastelands, which cause soil erosion, floods, silting of reservoirs, and environmental pollution, can be converted into lush green forests while providing income and employment to millions of rural people. There are several options of growing the trees on wastelands, but selection of appropriate low-cost technology is very critical because we have limited resources to invest on external expensive inputs like irrigation, fertilizers, pesticides, and fencing. These exposed rocks are the witness for the severe soil erosion which is taking place on our wastelands. It takes over hundreds of years to build up a centimeter of topsoil, but due to neglect, we lost very fertile soil every year. It is estimated that the topsoil lost in India is to the tune of 1.2 billion tons every year. With the exposure of these soils, the fertile soil goes back to the river and tank beds, causing floods and affecting the potentials of our irrigation. The land resources, once full with lush green forests, are now posing a serious threat to our survival. We certainly have technology and solution. The primary step in developing such wastelands is to collect the loose stones spread over the field and use them to construct boundary walls so that you can prevent the entry of stray animals. Subsequently, whatever the excess stones you have can be further collected and used for establishing gradonis or check band. You can see here all the loose stones can be collected and easily constructed into check bands. They are very simple and help in establishing, developing the land while clearing the ground to facilitate good quality grass growth. If you don't collect these stones from the ground, that much area covered by the stone is lost for grass growth. These check bunds are not very effective in the beginning to retain moisture, but they can certainly reduce the velocity of water and gradually restore the silt and organic matter which otherwise would have flown out of this field. Moreover, there is also a chance that some of these check bunds get breached during the rainy season. This should be taken care of regularly by attending and repairing. When you see such kind of check bund breaking, it indicates that this area is getting more rainwater than the capacity of the check bund to resist. So in such cases, we need to strengthen these bunds regularly every year using the stones. Sometimes you can also bring some clay soil and patch up at the bottom, so that whatever the efforts we can make without any extra cost to reduce the velocity of water and storage can be done. Another important step to be noted here is when such breaching takes place between the two chuck bunds, we can put one more additional, so that subsequently the pressure on the weak bund can be reduced. That is how one should take up the decision about the interval between the two chuck bunds. Although there is stone, you can see gradually after 2-3 years the grasses start growing on this silt deposited at the gradoni chuck bund, and such grass growth will further help in retaining moisture. At this stage, we should make sure that such grass growth is not disturbed. Another important decision we have to make here is to decide about the interval between the two chuck bunds. It depends on the gradient of the land and the rainfall of the area. If the land is too slopy, the interval between two gradonis should be closer. Similarly, if the rainfall is very high, we should have closer chuck bunds. Another important method is to have staggered trenches. This is helpful particularly in the areas where the soil is soft and rainfall is high. Now you can see here the staggered trenches are of about 2 meters, and they are in disjointed fashion in such a way that whatever the water filled in one staggered trench will overflow from the side and get collected at the lower level. This way, there are very little chances of breaching of the bunds. These staggered trenches, one should be noting that while forming, the earth excavated should be put on the lower side of the slope, little away, about 15 to 20 centimeters from the trench, and to form into a mound where one can put green manure species by direct sowing and also agave. Make sure that the deepest point of the staggered trench is slightly at the higher side of the slope. You can see once you establish agave, it improves. Once we have the staggered trenches and bunds, at the lower end you can find water reserved or stored in pits. At the best part of the watershed, we can reserve this water by putting constructions, chuck bunds, which can be of different kind. This chuck bund is constructed by using stone, mortar and cement, which is of permanent nature, wherein the excessive water will overflow from the top of the structure. This is about 3 years old at a dry area in Pune district, and the water here is used for irrigation. The other type is the earthen type, where the structure has been constructed from used from earth, and stone pitching has been made, and at the end you can see a spillway at least 1.5 meters from the top to ensure that water flows from the side. Once you have a water body created, there is a tremendous change in the microclimate all around. We can see the natural growth at the lower stream, and the water can be used for irrigating in the catchment area itself, thereby changes the entire microclimate. With the formation of such water bodies, There is the impact in favor of the environment. We can notice several different species of birds coming in, new grasses emerging from the soil, and as a result, there will be an all-round improvement in the ecosystem. In a badly eroded, degraded land, establishment of trees is a big problem. Some places you see good patches, and some places the trees would have died like this, and it should be our constant endeavor to make sure that planting of seedlings is carried out regularly. One of the important reasons in such areas for the stunted growth of plants is poor soil fertility. However, in most cases it is difficult to apply adequate doses of fertilizer, but there are techniques to improve the soil fertility by using bacterial fertilizers or biofertilizers, mycorrhizae, green manure, earthworm, and several other ways, which are indigenous technologies which can be introduced by the farmers without any extra cost. Rhizobium is a bacteria which is available in the form of fertilizer, which is treated to the seeds of legumes so that the roots of these plants start nodulating and absorb the atmospheric nitrogen and make it available to the plant. Similarly, mycorrhiza is another kind of fungi which has several beneficial effects. Mycorrhiza will make the phosphorus available to plants. It also helps in providing a lot of micronutrients. It also helps in getting extra moisture supply and build up the resistance in bad soil. Mycorrhiza is a new concept which needs to be promoted. In case of mycorrhiza here, it gets an entry in the root system and spreads in the ground and absorbs all the phosphorus, micronutrients, and brings it to the plant, which otherwise was not available to the roots. Green manuring is another technique. Similarly is the earthworm. Earthworm uses the organic matter, improves the soil texture, and thus the water holding capacity. Similarly, a very systematic land development is important to capture maximum rainwater. Small plots being formed in such degraded lands will help in restoring water within the plot, and we can simply summarize that this is an system of watershed management. Next important aspect of wasteland development is the selection of suitable tree species. Of course, the selection of the species depends on the soil type and the moisture availability. In very fertile soils, species like teak, malina, eucalyptus can be planted because these species require assured moisture and high soil fertility. In areas where soil fertility is medium and the moisture availability is low, there are other species like Lucina, Pongamia, Shishu, Sisham, And in very dry areas, species like neem and acacias should do better. In addition to the planting of main species, there is plenty of scope for introducing other species. One important species for drylands is the introduction of agave. Agave is one of the hardiest plants which can be easily planted on the bunds, not only on the border but also in between the plantations, so that they help in strengthening the bunds, restoring the moisture, and also help in providing additional income while serving as a natural fence. While making small bunds, make sure that small check bunds are given at a distance of 15 to 20 meters so that there is no breaching of these check bunds or contour bunds due to bad contouring or wrong slopes. There is also scope for planting trees all along the roadsides. Selection of superior quality germplasm is another important factor required for successful afforestation. Indiscriminate use of seed can cause great loss to farmers because there is a lot of variation in the growth. You can see in this plantation only about 10 to 15% of these trees are of this size and the rest are of different sizes which are so small as this much. Now you can imagine if all these seeds were of this type, uniform growth would have been achieved and the farmer would have got